everyone, Chris Alex here, and finally I have the Cotton Candy Raygun tutorial that a bunch of you have been waiting for. And I had lost the footage and recently found it, so tried to get a tutorial together as fast as possible. Now, back then when the gun was built, I had just gotten my GoPro and I didn't really have my setup and workflow worked out, so there is a few times I might be a little out of frame. But overall, I hope that this tutorial will be very useful because it is for the same ray gun that I have had through all 4 Killer Clown makeups. And just a reminder, if you are familiar with my clown videos, or if you're new here, my next clown will be Slim. It's going to be about a month out, so please be patient. And, well, let's get into the tutorial.
First off, for the main part of the ray gun, I used a styrofoam egg. This one is 3.8 by 5.6 inches. I cut the narrow end off and covered it with Carbondo and sanded it smooth. For the flat end, I made it match the 2 by 3/16 inch wood disc. You want a nice transition from the disc to the main belly of the ray gun. The pink Sharpie line is where the small rectangles are going to line up. I ended up using a Glowforge to laser cut the acrylic pieces since I couldn't find anything in stores for this part. For reference, they're 0.17 by 0.34 inch and it's 1/8 inch thick acrylic. I took a long piece of the acrylic that was the same width and used it to rough out where the pieces will go. This way they'll look relatively evenly spaced. To adhere them, I'm going to use 2-part 5-minute epoxy. Also making sure you wear gloves when working with this stuff. Don't be like me. One by one, carefully place the pieces. They may want to slide a bit before they set, so just keep an eye on any of the pieces that might want to wander out of place. There you go. Let that cure. Okay, this piece I couldn't find anything that resembled it, so I took a 1.5 inch wooden ball with a 3/8 hole, some epoxy putty, and knead a small piece. Again, wear gloves. Going to use some aluminum foil to roll it flat. Took some 99% alcohol to keep it from sticking too bad to the foil. Once it's nice and smooth, you're going to want to cut some straight sides. Took a spatula with some alcohol to help it slide through the material. It's basically a rough estimation. You're better to have too much than to come up shy. Going to end up wanting 4 strips for the ball. Line up the strips carefully and be sure not to smash and misshape it. The one at the end will have a disc on it. Cut just right where the disc meets the strip. That's where you're going to want the taper to begin. You want the disc to lay flat against the ball. Went ahead and did a second strip. Carefully press the strip down and clean up the sides to keep them straight. And make sure it's flush to the wood, doing the same thing as the first. Ran out of material, so I rolled out some more Propoxy to do the other 2 strips. Getting some sides as straight and as smooth as possible. You can sand the top part of the strips once it's dry, so don't fret over the top too much, and let cure. Another piece I ended up Glowforging is the Bullseye. I cut 2 circles, one of the patterns is etched into it, and the second is plain. Glue the 2 pieces together and sand smooth till they look seamless. Those are 3.7 inch discs. More laser cut wood pieces were cut for the end. Made these 3 wood rings like so and sanded taper around them so they better represent the ones on the ray gun. These are the specs for the cut pieces and they also have a 3/8 hole for the dowel. Now take a piece of wooden dowel and line up all 3 of the sanded discs using the 2-part epoxy to adhere them in place. Then have 3/4 inch wooden ball for the tip. This is also the same size of the ones that's around the bullseye piece. I did lightly sand small flat surface so that it will sit flush to the dowel. Then add some to the pieces and let gravity do the work. Now for the small and large disc sets. The large ones are 2 by 3/16 inch. They did not have rounded corners, so I did end up sanding them some. Luckily I was able to find rounded edge for the small ones. Those are 1 by 1/8 inch. Take the epoxy and stack 6 small discs and 3 of the larger ones, and let those sit. For the handle, trigger, and top doohickey, I use balsa wood. Here you can see the handle is all nice and sanded, and it's very similar to the board size, so there wasn't too much work. For the other pieces, I go ahead and draw the shape out and begin to cut it, starting with an X-Acto and then jumping to a hand saw to speed things up. The wood is super soft and easy to work with. Ended up cutting the rest of the material out of frame, but the wood is so soft that you can use a low grit sandpaper to quickly remove material and shape. Here I'm using 80 grit to finish up the shape. For the other piece, grabbed a Dremel since it's an odd shape, started with a wider bit and then changed to a smaller one for better precision. Once it's cut out, start to sand and refine, giving it a taper and rounded shape. The wood balls to check the width of each tip. Also going to want to curve the base so it sits flush to the body of the ray gun. Just check it up against it until you get the right shape. And here are the pieces ready to go. Use 2-part epoxy to adhere them to the body. To make it easier, let it set and thicken a little before placing. That way you aren't holding it the whole time. Once the trigger and handle are cured, time for the top piece. Use Tester's contour putty to fill in any space between the body and the pieces that we just added. Added a couple layers and smoothed it out and let it dry. You can sand it if you need to refine. This part is a bit out of frame, but I'm using a brush and coating the balsa wood with the 2-part epoxy. This will give it a smoother surface and protect it from getting dings. Did a few coats and lightly sanded any bumps. So here's everything primed. I did drill a hole down the center of the large stacks of discs, then epoxy a piece of wire in place and leaving a good amount sticking out. This will help reinforce it when assembling. Did the same thing with the small one and also drilled a hole in the center of the bullseye and the other end of the ball so that the epoxy can have something to lock into. I don't have footage of the assembly, but here you can see the finished gun and how it all went together. I used Createx Wicked paints to paint the whole thing. Some of the colors I did custom mix to get what I wanted. Finished with multiple coats of Rust-Oleum Automotive Clear Glossy Enamel. Thank you so much for hanging around. If you like this tutorial, please be sure to hit that like button. I have some more Killer Clown content on the way, so if you don't want to miss out, be sure to subscribe.